The warning against a single global government. The fear of centralized authority is a persistent argument. But what if humanity's most pervasive governing structure is not political at all? What if it already exists, operating quietly beneath our notice? Consider this. Survival in our modern world demands participation in a single, invisible system. That system is the monetary system, better known as money. It's a profound distinction, highlighting the difference between formal political rule and functional systems of influence. While nations operate under different flags and laws, nearly every human being must engage with currency to acquire necessities: food, shelter, healthcare, education, and transportation. The rules vary by border, but the underlying principle is universally binding. Without access to wealth, life itself becomes unsustainable. This reliance on finance suggests a global governance already at work. It's not governed by one parliament or president. It's woven into the intricate web of international trade, multinational corporations, and payment networks. The very infrastructure managed by institutions like the IMF and the World Bank. Economic interdependence shapes nearly every corner of civilization. Of course, opponents argue that a monetary system isn't governance at all. They point to the absence of legislative authority, law enforcement, or democratic accountability. Governments can compel action through legal force. Markets influence behavior purely through incentives and consequences, but consider the practical outcome. Whether the mechanism is outright coercion or sheer necessity, the effect on daily life can be remarkably similar. If participation in this economic structure is required to meet basic human needs, then that system is governing, even if it lacks a constitutionally defined government body. This idea echoes deep philosophical currents. The difference between government, meaning the visible institutions of the state, and governance, which describes the broader systems, norms, and incentives that coordinate and constrain our behavior. Under this expansive definition, the global monetary system functions as one of humanity's most pervasive forms of governance imaginable. The debate then narrows. Are we discussing a one-world government, or are we defining what constitutes governance itself? If governance is defined simply as the mechanisms that organize and constrain human action, the argument for money becomes philosophically unassailable. If, however, governance is narrowly confined to a single sovereign political authority, then we must call it something else, perhaps a globally influential economic order. So, can we say money is the de facto governance? Yes, but with an essential qualification: it governs not by fiat, but by creating inescapable incentives and constraints. It determines access. It influences where you live, what career path you choose, and who you associate with. And critically, it creates stark consequences for non-participation. Without sufficient resources, meeting fundamental needs becomes exponentially harder. In this sense, money acts as a profound behavioral regulator. Unlike a government decree that says, "You must do X," the market whispers, "If you want Y, these are the conditions under which you can obtain it." Economists summarize this perfectly. Prices convey information and dictate incentives. Of course, we must acknowledge its limits. Money cannot pass laws. It cannot imprison a person on its own. It fundamentally relies on governments to define property rights and enforce contracts. Yet, even in pockets, in families, charities, or localized barter systems, we see the constant human impulse to find alternatives to this universal current of capital. Ultimately, money functions as the essential regulatory mechanism of modern civilization. Political borders may differ from nation to nation, but the necessity of participating in this economic web remains nearly absolute. This leads us to the biggest question of all. If governance is measured by its ability to shape human behavior at scale, Does economic power ultimately wield more influence than political authority? The answer, perhaps, lies in understanding that they are two sides of the same deeply interconnected coin. They represent a fundamental duality, a partnership where one cannot sustain itself without the other. Political power establishes the necessary scaffolding, it creates the courts, it draws the borders, and most critically, it enshrines the laws recognizing property rights. Without a state's enforcement arm, an investment is merely a promise written on paper. Conversely, economic power provides the lifeblood that empowers the state itself. Wealth funds the armies, finances the infrastructure, and sustains the bureaucracy required to maintain order. A government stripped of its circulating capital becomes little more than a collection of eloquent arguments with no means of execution. They are locked in an unbreakable feedback loop. The law validates the ledger, and the ledger demands the law. And this interdependence leads us to a dramatic conclusion, a conceptual apex. If power can be mapped this thoroughly across systems of state, commodity, and necessity, one must ask if money itself transcends mere mechanism, or in its ultimate scope, some might argue that money is not just an influence, it is the supreme organizing principle, a deity whose commandments are written into every transaction and whose servants are every institution built upon credit.